Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we'll be discussing the cast of Monty Python and where they are now. For this video, we'll be going over the careers and accomplishments of the 6 primary members from the iconic comedy troupe Monty Python. What's your favourite Monty Python moment? Let us know in the comments.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
John Cleese. Does the fact that John Cleese arguably possesses the most internationally known resume and pedigree make him the most famous member of Monty Python?
Is this the right one for an argument?
I've told you once.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
Perhaps, at least if one is taking into account Cleese's work within the Harry Potter franchise as nearly Headless Nick. There's no denying that the success of Monty Python was absolutely a group effort, but Cleese has remained remarkably busy on both the small and large screens since. Perhaps most notably, the comedian was also responsible for co-creating another beloved British sitcom institution, Fawlty Towers. The show ran for only 2 series, but it went on to earn audience acclaim worldwide, even airing in the United States under public television. Elsewhere, Cleese made a similarly big comic splash with the 1988 hit A Fish Called Wanda, alongside his former Python colleague Michael Palin. Cleese continued to act into the 90s and early millennium, appearing as the gadget expert in 2 Bond flicks, as well as the 2001 comedy Rat Race. Voice work also came Cleese's way, with the Python member working on animated fare for the Shrek and Trolls franchises. Speaking of voiceovers, Cleese also collaborated with Python partner Eric Idle on the musical Spamalot, where he voiced, well, God. Controversy did occur when Idle re-recorded Cleese's voice in order to cut down on royalty costs to the performer, but Cleese has labelled these conflicts in the media as overblown. Eric Idle. What's a proper Monty Python film without the music, right? Well, you can thank South Shield's own Eric Idle for that, a comedian who's never shied away from inserting his musical talent into the mix.
Oh, don't be such a baby.
I can't take him.
I feel fine. Well, do us a favour.
I can't.
Well, can you hang around a couple of minutes? He won't be long.
Python fans today will likely point to Idle singing Always Look on the Bright Side of Life from the 1979 film Life of Brian as a particular favourite. However, the man has many other career highlights of which to speak. We've already mentioned Idle's musical show Spamalot, which is largely based upon Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Idle wrote the music and lyrics for the show, which was a Tony Award-winning success. This wasn't the only musical comedic group with which Idle was involved, however. Idle also co-created The Rutles with occasional Python performer Neil Innes, a Beatles mock-up who achieved major success with their parodic pastiche. Idle then turned to voice work on Transformers the movie in 1986, as well as live-action roles in films like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen and Casper. He worked with the English National Opera and continued his voice acting career on movies like South Park, Bigger, Longer and Uncut. Idle even worked within the world of video games, voicing Rincewind the Wizard in the PC adaptation of Terry Pratchett's Discworld series of novels. He continues to perform today, showing up on shows like The Masked Singer, while a big screen adaptation of Spamalot is said to be in the works for Paramount Pictures. Graham Chapman. It doesn't feel like an exaggeration to describe Graham Chapman as the glue which held Monty Python together, especially when it came to their cinematic outings. The success of Holy Grail and Life of Brian both hinge upon Chapman's innate abilities as an actor, since the Python member does most of the heavy lifting as leads of both films. Beyond this, Chapman's talent as a writer was discovered early on, during his collaborations with future Python performer John Cleese. It was their work together at the BBC that would eventually lead to their pairing with the other Pythons, who often split their writing duties into teams. After Python, Chapman attempted to collaborate on a new pilot with Douglas Adams, the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, who occasionally worked with the Monty Python crew. This pilot, titled Out of the Trees, didn't take off, but Chapman would eventually get another film project off the ground in 1983. Yellowbeard received mixed reviews at the time, but does possess a cult following today. Chapman would write his memoir in 1980, perform spoken word, and even find time to appear in the Iron Maiden video for Can I Play With Madness. Graham Chapman would eventually reunite with his fellow Python members and perform on and off throughout the 1980s, but he would sadly expire from cancer complications in 1989. A comedic life taken far too soon. Michael Palin. Sir Michael Palin is another member of the Monty Python troupe whose writing and performing talents are celebrated internationally.
Oh, yes, the Norwegian Blue. What's wrong with it?
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's dead.
Palin's writing collaborator within Python was Terry Jones, and this creative relationship was continued on after the group's initial demise. Specifically, Palin and Jones would work together on the BBC's Ripping Yarns, an anthology series for which the pair also combined to create. Indeed, the writing bug never truly let hold of Palin after his Python days, and he continued to entertain and inform fans with his insightful documentarian work within the field of world travel. However, those same fans probably also remember Michael Palin for his co-starring role in the aforementioned A Fish Called Wanda. Palin's character may have possessed a memorably crippling stutter, but he also stole the film with his likeable and charismatic performance. Palin's writing didn't stop there either, as the Python member was partly responsible for the sublimely ridiculous 1971 film Percy. The film comedically sets up the plot concerning penis transplants, and the end results are as quirky and strange as that synopsis suggests. Palin continues to work on the silver screen after Python, appearing in the World War I drama The Wipers' Times and The Wind in the Willows, the latter of which was directed by former Python Terry Jones. Today, Michael Palin performs spoken word and continues his passion for writing and hosting travel documentaries. He's also politically active, volunteering his time and influence for such causes as the Campaign for Better Transport. Terry Jones.
Did you dress her up like this? No! No! Yes. I bet.
If Graham Chapman was the Monty Python best served for acting, then it's certainly fair to label Terry Jones as a Python member destined for the director's chair. Jones assisted in directing or co-directing Python's most beloved film trilogy, Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and The Meaning of Life. But this isn't the beginning and end of his story. Terry Jones was similar to his writing partner Michael Palin in that he was also fiercely passionate about subjects outside of comedy. For Jones, this subject was medieval history, and he wrote multiple books and assisted on documentary projects to this end. These included the 2004 project Terry Jones' Medieval Lives, as well as books about Geoffrey Chaucer and the Canterbury Tales. He continued directing in the years after Python as well, helming idiosyncratic comedy ventures like Eric the Viking in 1989. Terry Jones was passionate about beer making too, even founding a microbrewery in 1977 by the name of Penrose Brewery, which ran for about 6 years. He continued to write poetry, essays, and screenplays. Jones is given a screenwriting credit for the Jim Henson film Labyrinth, though his draft was reportedly quite different from the finished film. Eventually, however, Terry Jones's health began to decline. The former Python suffered from degenerative aphasia for years, which often occurs when portions of the brain become damaged either by trauma or stroke. He passed away due to complications with his frontotemporal dementia on the 21st of January 2020. Terry Gilliam. It's fitting that we end this retrospective of Monty Python by discussing two members which worked behind the scenes as directors. Terry Gilliam is one of the most unique and uniquely talented filmmakers of his day, and it's his eye for the absurd that often goes part and parcel with Python's anarchic sense of humour. This is no small feat either, since Gilliam was the only American member of Monty Python, and as a result, brought a unique perspective to the creative table. It was Gilliam's brilliant animation style and visual flair that eventually permeated both Python sketches and Gilliam's own films. This is why it's easy to discuss exactly where Terry Gilliam is now, because many of his imaginative films have entered the cultural zeitgeist. This is despite the almost legendary reputation of Gilliam for becoming involved with projects that were either troubled or dropped altogether. Yet the films that did come to fruition are some of the most memorable around, particularly Gilliam's work on Brazil, Time Bandits, and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Elsewhere, the director achieved more mainstream success in the 1990s with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, The Fisher King, and 12 Monkeys. He was, at one time, championed by none other than J.K. Rowling as director for the first Harry Potter film, but this unfortunately didn't pan out. Gilliam continued to crank out visually captivating features like Tideland and the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, but this latter production was also fraught with delays and tragedy, specifically the death of its star, Heath Ledger. The director did some theatre work with a production of Into the Woods, and finally completed his long-suffering passion project, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, in 2018. He continues to be a proud outsider and cinematic maverick at the time of this writing, and we couldn't be more excited for whatever Terry Gilliam does next.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.